prepare to be outraged, titillated, and inspired as you delve into the legacy of the Mzungu Man in Africa. The legacy of colonialism and exploitation has left deep scars in African societies, but the future generations of Mzungu Men can learn from the past and contribute to a brighter, more sustainable future.
Uncover the complex legacy of the Mzungu Man in Africa, a story of both privilege and pain. Through the pages of this book, you will learn about the exploitation, oppression, and environmental degradation that have resulted from the actions of Mzungu Men over the years. But you will also discover the potential for positive change and a brighter future for the African continent. Get ready to be engrossed in the wit and wisdom of Mzungu Man, a story that is both rare and compelling, and that leaves you with much to think about. The Mzungu Men, A Legacy of Exploitation in Africa by Darnell Ishmel. Preface. As I sit down to write this book, memories of my doctoral study at the Pacific School of Religion flood my mind, along with vivid recollections of my time in Kenya and other African countries. The sights, sounds, and stories of the people I met during my 124 days of exploration, observation, and missions still resonate with me to this day. One theme that stood out during my travels was the impact of Mzungu Men in Africa. As a term used to describe white Westerners who visit the continent, Mzungu Men have played a significant role in shaping the history, culture, and future of Africa. For centuries, Mzungu Men have left a lasting impact on African societies, and their legacy is still felt to this day. Their arrival on the continent has often been marked by exploitation, environmental degradation, and cultural appropriation. From colonial exploitation to modern-day tourism, their legacy is one that is both complex and controversial. The stories I had and the experiences I had in Africa left a profound impact on me, and I felt compelled to share them with others. The Mzungu Men, A Legacy of Exploitation in Africa is the result of my reflections and observations, and it is my hope that it will stimulate discussion, challenge assumptions, and inspire positive change.
This book is not meant to be an indictment of all Mzungu Men or a celebration of all African cultures. Rather, it is a nuanced exploration of the complex and often contradictory relationship between Westerners and Africans. It is a call to action for those who seek to engage with Africa in a way that is respectful, responsible, and sustainable. As you read through these pages, I encourage you to keep an open mind and to approach the topic with a critical eye. Some of the stories and perspectives presented may be uncomfortable, but it is through discomfort that we grow and learn. I also invite you to share your own thoughts, experiences, and opinions, as the conversation around Mzungu Men in Africa is ongoing and ever-evolving. It is my hope that this book will inspire critical thinking and dialogue, and that it will inspire all who read it to engage with the continent in a way that is mindful of its rich history and diverse cultures. In the end, I hope that this book will contribute to a greater understanding and appreciation of Africa and its people as we continue to work towards a more just and equitable world.
Prologue. Ladies and gentlemen, gather round for a tale that will tickle your senses and leave you pondering, for it is the story of a man, unlike any other. A man whose very presence elicits a wide range of emotions from those around him. A man who, with his sun-kissed skin, pedicured feet, and arrogant stride, has become a symbol of both privilege and pain. Yes, my friends, I give you Mzungu Man. A stranger to the land, he struts along the African coast, basking in the sun and flaunting his wealth with a self-important gait. He thinks himself a master of the land and sea, but little does he know, the ocean holds a truth far deeper than he could ever imagine. For you see, beneath the exterior shine of his golden skin, lies a soul that is far from divine. The beauty he experiences is built on the pain of others, and the wealth he flaunts comes at the cost of sisters and brothers. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today to discuss a matter that is close to the heart of many in this great continent of Africa. I am talking about the legacy of the Mzungu Man. For those who may not know, the Mzungu Man is a term used to describe a white, Western individual who travels to Africa. For centuries, these men have come to this continent, leaving a lasting impact that is both positive and negative. So, sit back, grab a drink, and get ready to be engaged by the wit and wisdom of Mzungu Man. A story that is equal parts witty and compelling, one that will incense and titillate, and leave with much to think upon.
Introduction. The history of the Mzungu Man in Africa dates back to the colonial era, where they were viewed as a symbol of power and superiority. In the past, Mzungu men came to Africa to extract resources, exploit local communities, and spread their cultural influence. The effects of their actions were far-reaching and often catastrophic. Many African countries were left scarred by the legacy of colonialism, which included economic exploitation, political oppression, and cultural hegemony. In more recent times, Mzungu men have continued to come to Africa, but with different motivations. Some come as tourists, seeking to explore the continent's diverse cultures, while others come as aid workers, looking to make a difference in the lives of those in need. However, despite the good intentions of some, the actions of others continue to cast a shadow over the legacy of the Mzungu Man in Africa. In many instances, Mzungu men still exploit local communities, engaging in unethical business practices and disregarding the needs of local people. They bring with them a sense of entitlement and often view African communities as inferior, failing to understand the complexities of local cultures and ways of life. This leads to misunderstandings, cultural appropriation, and even discrimination. Moreover, the economic impact of Mzungu men in Africa can be significant. For example, tourism can generate significant revenue for local communities, but it can also lead to environmental degradation and the displacement of local people. In some instances, Mzungu men engage in speculative real estate ventures, leading to gentrification and the displacement of long-standing communities. The legacy of the Mzungu Man in Africa is a complex one. On one hand, their actions have brought both benefits and challenges to local communities. On the other hand, their actions have left a lasting impact on this great continent, and it is our duty to ensure that the future generations of Mzungu men engage in responsible, ethical, and sustainable practices when they come to Africa. Thank you.
Chapter 1: The Mzungu Men, a Legacy of Exploitation in Africa. The Mzungu Man, a term used in East Africa to describe white Westerners, has a long and complex history in Africa. Although some Mzungu men have played important roles in helping to advance education, healthcare, and other aspects of development in Africa, the legacy of Mzungu men in Africa is largely one of exploitation, oppression, and environmental degradation. One of the earliest examples of Mzungu men in Africa was the Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama, who arrived on the coast of East Africa in the late 15th century. Portuguese and other European explorers brought with them trade goods, new technologies, and religious ideas, but they also brought with them a strong desire to exploit the resources of the African continent. Over the centuries, this exploitation has taken many forms, including the enslavement of millions of Africans, the forced labor of local communities, and the extraction of valuable minerals and other resources. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Mzungu men played a prominent role in the colonization of Africa by European powers. This era was marked by brutal wars of conquest, the imposition of harsh colonial rule, and the exploitation of African resources for the benefit of European economies. The legacy of this period of Mzungu exploitation is still felt in many African countries today, where high levels of poverty, inequality, and political instability continue to hinder progress and development. In more recent times, Mzungu men have continued to exploit Africa in various forms. For example, many Western corporations have set up operations in Africa in search of cheap labor and natural resources, often with little regard for the environmental or social impact of their activities. This has resulted in widespread environmental degradation, the displacement of local communities, and the exploitation of African workers. The impact of Mzungu men in Africa extends beyond the physical exploitation of resources and people. There has also been a profound cultural impact, as the influence of Western cultures, languages, and beliefs has shaped the way that many African communities think and live. This cultural impact has been both positive and negative, with some aspects of Western culture enriching African societies, while others have led to the erosion of local traditions, languages, and beliefs. Despite the many challenges faced by Africa today, there are also many examples of Mzungu men who have made a positive difference in African communities. For example, there are many Western-based non-profit organizations that work to promote education, health, and sustainable development in Africa, and many Western volunteers who work tirelessly to help improve the lives of those in need. In conclusion, the legacy of Mzungu Men in Africa is a complex and multifaceted one, marked by both exploitation and positive contributions. However, it is important to remember that the actions of Mzungu Men have had a profound impact on African communities, and it is our responsibility to learn from this history and to work towards a future in which Westerners can visit, work, and travel in Africa in ways that respect the rights, dignity, and culture of local communities.
In the African sun, with bodies baked, pedicured and wrinkled, clad in attire so scanty and skimpy, the Mzungu Man, with skin so pale, arrogant and proud, as if a god of the air, with his head in the clouds. He floats along the shoreline with nostrils to the sky, flaunting all his privilege in a self-important stride. His hair, tossed and twirled and tousled by the sea, whipping around as he twirls with glee. Strutting on the shore, with skin so red, brutalized by the sun, he does not see the harm he has laid. Look at him, so carefree and bold, sun-kissed and freckled, he is so very cold.
The ocean, a testament to his greed, his nets set, as he waits to feed. His laughter, a mere echo in the air, a hint of sadness, tinged with despair. In this land of grace and light, where people live with soul and might, the Mzungu Man comes with eyes so cold, bringing nothing but greed and hunger untold. The price of his prize is the pain of the land, built on the suffering of the poor, so unplanned. It is our call to be responsible travelers, to avoid exploitation and bring love and respect, as we travel along. Chapter 2, Mzungu Man, Max and Simone. The tiny village of Cheshire, on the Kenyan coast, was home to a small community of fishermen and their families. The villagers lived a simple life, eking out a living from the sea and spending their evenings gathered around the fire, sharing stories and laughter. One day, a new arrival came to their shores, a tall, pale-skinned man with tousled hair who went by the name of Max. Max was a backpacker from the West who had come to Kenya in search of adventure. He quickly made friends with the villagers, and soon he was spending his days lounging on the beach and his nights drinking and telling stories around the fire. The villagers were fascinated by Max. They had never seen a man with skin so pale and hair so light, and they were enchanted by his stories of far-off lands and strange customs. Max, in turn, was drawn to the simple, joyful life of the villagers. He felt a sense of peace that he had never known before, and he found himself falling in love with the land and the people. But Max's idyllic life in Cheshire was not meant to last. One day, a group of tourists came to the village, and Max was quickly whisked away by their leader, a wealthy European woman named Simone. Simone was captivated by Max's stories, and she offered to take him on a tour of Kenya, promising him sights and experiences that he had never even dreamed of. Max agreed, and he left Cheshire behind, feeling a sense of sadness, but also excitement. He traveled with Simone, visiting all the finest hotels and resorts that 7. Kenya had to offer. He saw things that he could never have imagined, and he met people who were like no one he had ever met before.
But as time went on, Max realized that Simone was not the person she appeared to be. She was cruel and manipulative, and she used her wealth and power to control those around her. Max found himself trapped in a world of exploitation and temporary companionship, where people used each other for their own ends, and then cast each other aside. Max's heart ached for the simple life he had left behind in Cheshire. He longed for the warmth of the fire and the laughter of the villagers, and he realized that his time in Kenya had taught him an important lesson. He learned that true happiness could not be found in wealth or power, but in the simple, genuine connections that we make with others. In the end, Max returned to chase shale, and he settled down among the villagers. He took up fishing, and he spent his days tending to the nets and the boats, and his evenings sitting around the fire, sharing stories and laughter with his friends. And he knew, with a deep and abiding certainty, that he had found his true home.
So, let us not judge the Mzungu Man so rashly, for he too has a story, one that's often so hasty. For some, their visit to Africa was an opportunity to grow, to experience new cultures and challenge what they already know. And for others, it was a chance to give back, to help communities in need, with kindness they lack. So let us not reduce the Mzungu Man to a mere stereotype, for he too is a human, with his own story to write. Let us strive to understand, to appreciate and learn, for the more we know, the more bridges we can burn. For though their skin may be different, their hearts are just the same, and though they may come from far, they too feel pain. So let us be fair, let us be kind, for the Mzungu Man, like us, is searching for peace of mind. Chapter 3: The Voice of the Earth. I am the ocean, deep and vast, a witness to the Mzungu's past. With each wave that crashes to the shore, I've seen their greed, so raw and poor. I've seen them come, with their flimsy attire, parading their wealth, without a care. Their laughter, a mere echo in the air, but in their hearts, a sadness I can share. I've seen their nets cast wide, so bold, chasing their desires, never growing old. But the price of their prize is the pain of the land, built on the suffering of the poor, so unplanned.
I am the air, carried on the breeze, a messenger of secrets, the Mzungu's is. I felt their laughter, so carefree and bold, but beneath it all, a sadness they cannot hold. I've seen their hair, tossed by the sea, a symbol of their power, so wild and free. But their souls are empty, their hearts so cold, searching for a peace that can never be told. I am the sand, a silent witness to all, a reminder of the past, a story to recall. I've seen their feet so pedicured and refined, stepping on the earth, and their arrogance so blind. So let us not forget, these Mzungu men, with their privilege so bright, their arrogance unrefined. For their time in Africa is but a fleeting visit, and the beauty they enjoy is built on the pain of others, for it.
Together we are the voice of the earth, the call to action, for a new birth. Let us rise and stand for what is right, and bring love and respect to this African site.
Mzungu Man speaks. The sun beats down on my skin, warm and bright as I stroll along the shore, feeling so like the ocean's roar, a symphony in my ear, a reminder of the beauty that's always near. I am the Mzungu Man, from faraway lands with a heart that beats to the rhythm of the sands, pedicured and prim. I wear my finest clothes, for I am proud of who I am and where I goes. My hair, tousled by the sea, a symbol of my power, a testament to my strength. In this Africa's bower I laugh and I play, with not a care in the world, for I am free, as a bird that's just unfurled. My nets cast wide, I wait for my catch with hope and with hunger. I seek what I can snatch, for I seek a new life, in this foreign place, a life filled with beauty, with hope, and with grace. But beneath it all, there's a sadness that lurks, a sadness that's mine, and it can't be dispersed, for I am a stranger, in this land so wild, and I seek to belong, to feel like a child. So I bask in the sun, and I dance with the air, and I walk along the shore, without a care, and I hope that one day, I'll find what I seek, the place where I belong, and I am free to be.
Tousled and tossed. The Mzungu Man, a stranger in the land, arrives with skin so pale, baked by the scorching sun's hand. Flaunting his privilege, in the skimpiest of attire, parading along the African tide with a self-important air. His hair, tousled and tossed by the sea breeze, whips around in joyous abandon, as he tours with ease. Strutting on the shore with a confident gait, brutalized by the sun, he remains ignorant of the harm he sows in his wake. Golden and freckled, he seems so carefree and bold, but look closer and you'll see a cold emptiness within his soul. The ocean, a witness to his insatiable greed, as he casts his nets, eager to feed. His laughter, an echo in the air, a hint of sadness, tinged with despair. The Mzungu Man may seem like a god of the sky, with his head held high and his arrogance unrefined. But let us not forget, his time in Africa is but a fleeting visit, built on the pain and suffering of others, a legacy he cannot acquit. So, let us observe this Mzungu Man, and recognize the emptiness and sadness that lies beneath his grand facade. For though he may bask in the sun's embrace, his soul remains unfulfilled, searching for something that he can never replace.
Mzungu Man, Ahmed and Alexander. In the sleepy coastal town of Mombasa, Kenya, there lived a young fisherman named Ahmed. He lived with his parents and siblings in a small hut near the shore, and fished every day to provide for his family. His life was simple, but he was content, knowing that he was doing what he could to take care of his loved ones. One day, a group of Mzungu men arrived in town. They were wealthy tourists from Europe and America, come to soak up the sun and enjoy the beauty of the African coast. Ahmed was initially intrigued by these strange visitors, but he soon grew to dislike them. They were arrogant and dismissive of the local culture, and seemed to believe that they were entitled to everything they wanted. One of the Mzungu men, a wealthy businessman named Alexander, took a particular interest in Ahmed. He offered to pay him to take him out on his fishing boat and show him the best spots for fishing. At first, Ahmed was hesitant, but he agreed when Alexander offered to pay him a large sum of money. Over the next few days, Ahmed took Alexander out on his boat and showed him the best spots for fishing. Alexander was a skilled angler, and he soon caught more fish than Ahmed ever had in a single day. Ahmed was amazed at his good fortune and was grateful to Alexander for hiring him. But as the days went by, Ahmed began to realize that Alexander was using him for more than just fishing. He was using him for his companionship, for someone to talk to and laugh with. He was using him for his knowledge of the sea and the local culture, and he was using him to make himself feel more important and powerful. And as the days turned into weeks, Ahmed began to feel like he was losing himself. He was no longer fishing for his family, but for Alexander's pleasure. He was no longer living for himself, but for Alexander's approval. He felt like he was being exploited, and he didn't know how to escape. One day, Alexander announced that he was leaving Mombasa and returning to his home in Europe. He thanked Ahmed for his help and gave him a large sum of money, more than he had ever earned in his life. But as Ahmed watched Alexander walk away, he felt a deep sadness and emptiness. He had lost a part of himself, and he would never be the same. Ahmed returned to his family, but he was not the same person he had been before. He was haunted by his time with Alexander, and he struggled to find meaning in his life. He felt like he had been used and discarded, and he didn't know how to forgive himself for what he had done. Years went by, and Ahmed never forgot about Alexander. He would sometimes dream about him, and he would always wake up feeling empty and alone. He realized that he had been a pawn in Alexander's game, and that he had been exploited for his companionship and his knowledge. He realized that he had been used, and he would never forget the sting of that exploitation. And so, Ahmed lived out the rest of his life, haunted by the memory of Alexander and the time they had spent together. He never forgot the lesson he had learned, and he always felt a deep sadness whenever he thought about the Mzungu man who had used him and discarded him like a broken toy. Chapter 5. Mzungu Man. In the African sun with bodies baked, pedicured and wrinkled, so skimpy they're clad, the tiniest bikini-esque, arrogant and proud, as if gods of the air with their heads in the clouds. They float along the shoreline with nostrils to the sky, flaunting all their privilege in a self-important stride, with their hair tossed and twirled and tousled by the sea, whipping around as they twirl in glee. strutting on the shore with their skin so red. Brutalized by the sun, they do not see the harm they've led. Look at them, so carefree and bold. Sun-kissed and freckled, they are so very cold. The ocean a testament to their greed, their nets set as they wait to feed. Their laughter a mere echo in the air, a hint of sadness tinged with despair. So let us not forget these Mzungu men, with their privilege so bright, their arrogance so unrefined. For their time in Africa is but a fleeting visit, and the beauty they enjoy is built on the pain of others for it. Mzungu Man, a stranger to the land, with skin so pale, baked by the sun's hand, wearing the skimpiest of coverings with pride, parading with privilege chocolate trophies along the African tide. Strutting and strident, they roam the coast, thinking themselves masters of what they boast. With pampered hair and pedicured feet, no modesty in sight, in full display for all to see. Che Chalet, a sight to behold, their skin a vibrant shade of orange and gold. But look closely beyond their facade, a sadness lurks, mysteriously at large. They sit at the edge of the sea, waiting and still. With nets cast wide, they hope to catch their thrill. But the truth is clear, they're searching for more than just the catch. They're searching for something they can't ignore. So let us observe these Mzungu men and recognize the emptiness that they pretend. For though they may bask in the sun's embrace, it's clear that their heart longs for a different place.
Chapter 6, Mzungu from the East. There is a parallel relationship between the legacy of Mzungu Men in Africa and the modern-day reality of Chinese and other Asian nationals coming to Africa with their exploits. The exploitation of African resources and labor by both Mzungu men and more recent Chinese and Asian migrants is a historical pattern that has had a profound impact on local communities and economies. Mzungu men, or white European colonialists, came to Africa in the 19th and early 20th centuries with the aim of acquiring wealth and power through the exploitation of resources and labor. They imposed their economic and political systems on local communities, often through brutal means, and used their dominance to extract resources and wealth from the continent. This legacy of exploitation and oppression has had lasting effects on African communities, contributing to poverty, inequality, and instability in many parts of the continent.
Similarly, in recent years, many Chinese and other Asian nationals have come to Africa seeking to exploit its resources and labor. These modern-day migrants are often linked to large corporations or state-owned enterprises, and they bring with them their own systems of exploitation and domination. The impact of this modern-day exploitation is still being felt by African communities, as local resources are depleted and local labor is undervalued. In both cases, the relationship between the exploiter and the exploited is marked by an unequal power dynamic, where the exploiters have the power to dictate the terms of the relationship and the exploited are left with limited choices and resources. The legacy of Mzungu Men in Africa, and the ongoing exploitation of the continent by Chinese and Asian migrants, highlights the ongoing challenge of ensuring equitable and sustainable development in Africa. Protesting voices of the unheard. Beaky hair and feet, we are but accessories to the Mzungu Man, adornments to his ego, as he walks this foreign land with his skin so pale and raw, battered by the sun. We bask in the glory of his presence, but it's not fun. Our hair, so pampered, tossed and twirled, a symbol of his power, as it's whipped by the world. Our feet, so pedicured, no rough terrain in sight, always a step ahead, in a world full of might.
Chocolate trophies. We are the prizes, the chocolate delights, coveted and desired, on display, in plain sight. Captured and claimed, as they cast their nets wide, a symbol of their wealth, their greed and their pride. We bask in the sun, in the ocean's embrace, a symbol of the Mzungu Man's lust for taste. But we too have a story to be told, of our journey, our struggles, and the price we've been sold. So, let us remember, we are not just objects to be had, we are more than just trophies, to be displayed in their glad. We are a part of a greater story, of Africa's rich land, and our legacy must not be erased by the Mzungu Man's hand.
Epilogue. The facade of the Mzungu Man may seem to glisten, but their true nature is hidden, far from the light that they are given. For the beauty they behold is constructed from the suffering of others, and the wealth they flaunt is acquired through the toil of sisters and brothers. So let us not be blinded by the exterior glow of the Mzungu Man, for deep within lies a soul that is far from the purest of all can. And as they depart, may we reflect upon their mark, and strive towards a world that is truly fair and stark, where every soul can bask in the sun's warm embrace, and revel in the beauty that life has to grace.
About the author, Darnell Ishmel is a multifaceted artist activist, known for his dynamic stage presence, exceptional vocal talent, and innovative programming. The New York Times praised him for his show-stealing debut in New York Opera, lauding his rich baritone voice, precise diction, and superb comic timing. Beyond his impressive musical career, Darnell is a mixed services professional who is passionate about creating meaningful change. He produces digital media and performance art for civic and cultural organizations, as well as providing institutionalization services and capacity building for grassroots community groups and nonprofit organizations.
As an artist activist, Darnell is deeply involved in a variety of social issues, including youth workforce development, urban revitalization, ex-offender success, and LGBTQI advocacy. With a background in nonprofit administration and university education, Darnell is committed to empowering marginalized, disengaged, and underrepresented communities.
Darnell holds undergraduate and graduate degrees from the University of Michigan, as well as a doctoral degree with distinction from the Pacific School of Religion. In 2017, he launched the Extended Outreach Ministry initiatives and services to provide support and mentorship to traditionally marginalized and disconnected youth and young adults.
Darnell's dedication to leveraging technology to improve the human condition in subterranean communities is both inspiring and innovative, despite having no formal experience in coding, website development, or community organizing. With his hard work, creativity, and unwavering commitment to change, Darnell Ishmel is a true force for good in the world.
This project was assisted by OpenAI's GPT-3 language model.